Tonight I will be speaking on how to take self-care and prevent burnout. Okay, and I'll just start by giving a little brief intro on myself. Okay, I am again a licensed professional counselor. I've been practicing in the field for a long time now, over a decade, and I currently, actually just a couple of months ago, started a private practice. It's a telehealth practice, Design Meets Mind LLC. I've been usually working with individuals, families, couples. I see all ages, and I specialize in CBT, also known as cognitive behavior therapy, a very effective approach used with those who struggle with anxiety. Let's see, I've graduated from Temple University from the counseling psych program with my master's degree, and I attended an HBCU in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for my undergraduate degree. I'd like to proceed by giving a special thanks to Mabel and June for always believing in me to start this private practice. They told me about, I think it was 2 years ago, when you start your practice, we'll send you some clients, and they've definitely kept their word on that and have been a blessing. So thank you all. Thank you, Mabel, for having me tonight as well. I really do appreciate it. And my husband, Marcus, he's been the backbone of this private practice. And so special thanks to him. My mother, who's always instilled in me, you keep God first, who was a church-going woman. And then my dad, who always kept me in front of a book, always told me, get your education, get your education. And of course, last but not least, the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who, you have to keep him first. If it weren't for him, his grace, I wouldn't be here. So special thanks to all of those people. I remember over the summer saying to my husband, we should relaunch the practice. We actually started the business back in 2016, but it did not do what we expected it to do. I did not at all put in as much time and prayer as I did recently, as we did recently to relaunch. And so, in hindsight, it wasn't the right time. It really wasn't the right time. So this evening, my goals are to first provide some mental health stats related to the pandemic. 2, identify the types of burnout. And 3, discuss ways to practice self-care and prevent burnout. This is, a very difficult time for all of us. We've all had to adjust our lives in some way, shape, or form due to the, COVID-19, the racial unrest, the economy. But I also come humbly to remind you that God is with you, and he will always be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Always keep that in mind. During June 24th through 30th, U.S. adults reported considerable elevated adverse mental health conditions associated with COVID-19. Younger adults, racial, ethnic minorities, essential workers, and unpaid adult caregivers reported having experienced disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, increased substance abuse, and elevated suicidal ideation. So I was saying there's been a higher demand for mental health counseling. Something, I've never seen before in all the years I've been in the field. But again, God is with you, and he continues to be with us. So I want to pose a question now. And the question is, how do you stay afloat in the midst of a season like this? What do you do? How do you take self-care to prevent burnout? Okay. Well, I asked our 2 toddler boys. My husband and I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. Not school aged yet, thankfully. They're at daycare sometimes. But I asked them, what should we do when we're tired? And the younger one said, or the older one said, we should sleep. And the younger one said, the 2.5-year-old, said he actually yawned. He didn't say. He yawned and he stretched his arms out. And so it's interesting how, they know what to do, but then they don't like to go to sleep. And it's the same for many of us as adults. We oftentimes know what to do, but we don't always do it. We don't. When we experience burnout, our entire body, our whole being is affected. And there are 3 types of burnout. There's the overload burnout, the under-challenged burnout, and neglect burnout. The under-challenged burnout is triggered by working harder for success. You just work and you work and you work. Whereas the under-challenged burnout is characterized by not feeling appreciated at work. And the neglect burnout is characterized by lacking the motivation to do work. So how do we prevent burnout? All right. Well, first and foremost, you have to examine your core, as in, what do you value? What do you value? Luke 12:34 says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." We all have something we treasure. Okay. I'd like to take a moment now to share my screen. Okay. And I will be sharing with you just a list of values. Just take a look at this and see if any of them resonate with you. Okay, you should see here love. Some people value love, others wealth and family, moral success. There's a ton of different values here. Some of them are redundant. But the goal of this worksheet here is to select the 10 most important values. And then you rank them from 1 to 10, with 1 being the most important. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord shall renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not be faint." Each of you were chosen to do God's will, and His will only. Only His will. Exodus 23:25 says, "You must serve the Lord your God. If you do, He will bless you with food and water and protect you from illness." Wow, don't we need that at this time? And serving the Lord your God means staying in prayer consistently. Consistently. You have to pray about everything. Everything, literally. And be specific when you pray. This is something my Aunt Maxine taught me when I was a young adult. So before I met my husband, Marcus, I dated. I dated a few people, and eventually I became tired of dating the type of people I was dating, and I burnt out. I'd say I burnt out. I needed to take a break. I needed to rest. And so I began to pray. And I prayed to God that He would bring me a husband that would love Him so much He would love me. And God answered that prayer. He did. He answered that prayer. Take breaks with everything and rest. Okay? Hebrews 4:10 says, "For anyone who enters God's rest alone rests from their works, just as God did from His." Take breaks. And always protect your time. Always. About 2 years ago, Marcus and I had the pleasure of meeting with June and Mabel Lee from Freedom Church. And during our time together, they reminded us that we only have 24 hours in the day. There's only 24 hours. They reference Zig Ziglar and the wheel. Some of you may be familiar with the wheel of life. And the wheel shows us how we need to balance our time. Okay? I can show you an image of this later on if you're interested. But the wheel allows us to assess where we are in each of our life. Some of the Stokes include family, career, okay, social life, family. People pleasing and lacking boundaries is another area that can lead to burnout. You have to protect your time. And God wants us to serve one another, but he also wants us to serve ourselves first. We have to be careful to fill our cup first, because otherwise it's harder to take care of anything or anybody else. Our mind and our body needs the rest in order to recharge. For adults, the amount of sleep required is about 8 to 10 hours every night. So rest your mind and rest your body. And stress kills our brain cells. So you have to be careful. Do the things you enjoy within reason. You know, if it's going to feed you spiritually and mentally and physically, do these things. Reward yourself. For my maternal grandmother, who is 91 years old today, she exercises. She walks every day, 91, and still drives. Can you believe that? I can't believe she still drives. She lives in a small town called Peekskill, New York, which is where I'm from, and my entire immediate family is from. But she lives on a hill. She and my grandfather were married for 69 years, until he passed away this past March. Okay, but she walks every day and she prays. I called her today. And I said, Grandma, how many miles do you walk? And she said, I walk 2 miles a day. 2 miles, 5 days a week, so a total of 10 miles. And because she lives on a hill, she actually has 24 flights of steps, 24 steps that lead up to the front door. And then if she wants to go to her bedroom in the house, she has an extra 13 steps to walk. So move your body, okay? Your body is your holy temple. 1 Corinthians 6:19 says, do you know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. Take care of your holy temple. Take care. I know right now most gyms are not open, but you can still exercise. If you can move your body, if you're able-bodied, exercise in your home. Exercise around your home, outdoors if you can. Okay. The other point I want to make is to be kind to yourself. Be kind. Watch how you talk to yourself, because there's power in the tongue. Don't say things like, it will never get better. I can't do anything right. No one likes me. Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So be careful what you say. You don't know what the future will bring. No one does. Only God knows the plans he has for you. Plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope in a future, if only we have faith in him. So do not lean into your own understanding. Seek him and remain in him to prevent burnout. Pastor Gabe is currently preaching on a series titled Future Now, and I quote him, everything we do in the present is actually all about what we see for the future. It's true. Everything we do today, right now in the present, is all about what we see in the future. Remain in him. Do not lean into your own understanding. So what will you choose right now for self-care? I leave you with 2 questions. What will you choose right now for self-care? And how will you choose to prevent burnout to ensure you reap that harvest God has for you? Because he says, do not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest. If you do not give up. You can't give up. Okay? So to recap, we're all going through a difficult time right now. and God sees and he knows. He does. Be kind to yourself. Be kind. Set boundaries. Set boundaries with yourself. You have to have rules. Okay? Prioritize. Set goals and prioritize. If you're going to complete a task, prioritize. Again, we only have 24 hours in the day. And remember that your body is your holy temple. Thank you all for your time tonight, and God bless you.
My wife and I, we have, a lot of friends during this time. They are, quite depressed because of, everything that's going on. Are there any tips that, we could do to, just help them? Maybe things that we can do with them together, or things that, or, anything that we can use to encourage them? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, yes. Where do your friends reside?
Just Philly, Jersey, nearby. Yeah.
Okay. I'd say if you all feel safe to hang out outdoors and maintain that 6 feet, distance from one another, take a walk. Okay. If you all have access to Zoom or FaceTime, get together regularly, okay, through these platforms, and just chat and play games with one another. That's a great question. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Hey Chantal, this is Shelley. Quick question. At what point do you recommend for someone who is, feeling down or, kind of struggling through this time with the pandemic to reach out and get, help from a therapist like you, or, seeking assistance from a certified professional?
Yes, that's another good question. Thank you, Shelley. I would say as soon as possible. If you notice that you've been down for 2 weeks pretty consistently, reach out to someone at your church. If you are going to church, another resource I have is psychologytoday.com. Okay, psychologytoday.com. Take a look on this website. There are tons and tons of therapists and support groups listed. Okay. So I would say as soon as possible. And if anything, you can always be evaluated. Okay. Having an evaluation does not necessarily mean you are now obligated to attend therapy. You can have an evaluation that usually lasts about an hour. And then, during that time, you and that clinician will discuss your symptoms and discuss just maybe treatment options. Oh, okay. So I see a question here from Courtney. Any tips for Zoom fatigue is her question. Okay. Thank you, Courtney. Another good question. Tips for Zoom fatigue. Well, let's see. Many people right now are using Zoom to work. And so, again, take breaks, take those breaks. Okay. When you're sitting, right? When you're sitting or standing, most people sit, elevate your legs. Our legs are hanging most of the time. Put your legs up on something, okay? Take a break, take a walk, even if it's, maybe to a different room in your house, okay? But just take those breaks. Take those breaks if you can to prevent that Zoom fatigue. Says people have different views about medication. When is it good? Thank you for that question. People do have different views about medication. When is it good? Well, again, having an evaluation, get an evaluation. Now, if we're talking about psychotropic medication, for mental health issues, that's one thing, and then if we're talking about over-the-counter meds, that's another. I can sort of touch on both. The psychotropic meds for mental health issues, again, you should have an evaluation. talk to your primary care doctor if you have one. Okay. You want to also maybe even get a second opinion. Okay. And if you've been struggling with symptoms for a good amount of time now, I would say med management with psychotherapy, some therapy. Okay, I would really advise against just taking medication. If you can afford the therapy, if you can find a therapist, that fits your budget, please do therapy and not just take the medication. Okay, it will help. It will help. Some people, mask their issues with the medication, and you just want to be careful that you're not, doing that. These are really
Chantal, any suggestions on getting better sleep? I know that I've heard that during the pandemic people have been having trouble sleeping. So any thoughts or suggestions on what we can do to improve our sleep quality during these stressful times?
Yes. Thank you, Shelley. So there's so many factors that influence sleep, right? Some of them being anxiety, depression. Try meditation, okay? Yoga, prayer. These are all mindfulness exercises, okay? Also, watch what you're eating throughout the day and drinking. Caffeine can disrupt our sleep. Late at night, if we're drinking something with caffeine or consuming something with caffeine, okay? How is the environment that you are sleeping in? It might be too hot, too cold. Okay, so watch these things. Alcohol, any drugs can affect sleep. Okay, so there are tons of things to try nowadays for sleep. They have weighted blankets, essential oils, sound machines, but really talk therapy, I'd say. I would say talking and prayer is the best antidote. Sometimes we just have to talk things out, and talking is so powerful. When we're asleep at night, it's quiet. You're alone with your thoughts, and our thoughts, tend to go. They get going. So try to, talk these things out or even journal, and that may help you to feel better, get better sleep.
Chantal, earlier you mentioned that we should seek professional help when we realize that we have symptoms and whatnot. So during the pandemic, a lot of folks might have lost their job, and along with the insurance and all that. So sometimes affordability could be a problem. So I was wondering if you know any resources that maybe free or more affordable for those who cannot do not have insurance, but really need some help, some professional assistance.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, again, that resource, psychologytoday.com, is an excellent resource for locating a therapist. Mm-hmm. You will even get most times an image of the therapist, what they specialize in, whether or not they accept insurance, okay, the type of population they work with. Check out psychologytoday.com. You can filter therapists by certain areas. Okay, check this out. Also check out if you are a member of a church. Okay, sometimes there are ministries like the Freedom Church of Philadelphia. There's Mabel and June Lee, who provide some, not counseling per se, but just more so they minister. Okay, they will meet with you and just talk with you to encourage you and pray with you if you're having any difficulties in your marriage, okay, in your relationship.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see another question from Courtney, and it says here, it seems a lot of people are dealing with lack of purpose during this time. Mm-hmm. What are some good tips in terms of maintaining productivity? Yeah. That's a good question. Thank you, Courtney. Yes, it's very difficult, right? With all the closings and, the increase in cases we see and hear. Uh, I would say use daily activity planning, right? And this consists of creating an agenda for yourself every day, maybe before you go to sleep or first thing in the morning. A few things, right? What you aspire to accomplish for that day to maintain productivity, right? To give you something to look forward to. This should help you. You have to have a plan, and things don't always go as planned, but it's still, good to plan.
Sometimes people they might kind of withdraw themselves after a while because they are in such like a depressed state. Any thoughts on how to engage them and try to get them out of that downward spiral per se?
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Many of us at times feel unmotivated to reach out, to connect with others, right? But the next time, I challenge you and encourage you to reach out, reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member. The next time you're feeling down and depressed and you're isolating, that's a red flag. Reach out to somebody. You don't have to get deep with them if you're not up for it. But just, hey, you want to reach out? I want to say hi. I was just thinking of you. That's it. And you do that and you will feel so much better. Pastor Gabe teaches us all the time, stay connected. Join a small group if you can. But maybe a group is not for you, okay? But reaching out to somebody regularly will help. We were wired to socialize with one another. And so when we isolate, it's really no good on our mental health and spirit. It really isn't any good. If anyone would like to reach me for therapy, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me at 484-393-5758. Okay, or you can email me at designmeetsmind LLC@gmail.com.